Alright, basically right now it's just myself and Justin. If Kate shows up, then we're going to be good to go and we'll just work her in. I'll talk with everyone individually on the syllabus, I guess. It will be posted on the wiki. If you have any changes, we aren't going to necessarily sign it until the oral exam, so it's pretty much open to change until we get to that point. So, I guess we will begin. So Justin, I'm going to open up the homework here quick because it pretty much starts right there. We're working on signals and systems. The first question, what is a signal? I know that you didn't have necessarily a lot of time to look it up, but did you find anything?
A little bit. I mean, obviously we've worked with it before in a lot of our other competencies. And
Yep.
when I think of a signal, it's usually an AC, like sine wave or something like that, coming from a sensor, or things like that you need to amplify or do different things to get it in the form that you want or can use.
Okay. One of the definitions that is given on the Merriam-Webster dictionary is a signal is a phenomenon that's occurring over time.
Yep.
So sound is another thing that is a signal. It occurs over time. There's variations in the decibel level, which is one way that the signal can be analyzed. So I'm going to quick take this up. So basically, as long as you can graph this over time, no matter what x is, you've got a signal. And this is mirrored, so it's going to be really hard for anyone that's watching the video, and even you. But you mentioned AC signals. Those typically turn into sine waves. And that's one of the basic signals that signal systems goes over, primarily because it's a nice uniform signal. And you can actually produce anything with a combination of different sine waves. That's something that's really, really deep into it. Combining signals is something that is useful to someone that's trying to make a complex signal for testing.
Yep.
But for the case that we're looking at, just the conceptual, we're not going to cover it too deeply.
Yep.
So a signal being anything that happens over time is the general rule. There are some caveats. I think Kate just joined. Yep. So I'm going to add her to the call quick. Kate?
I'm so sorry I'm late.
That's alright.
I thought I was gonna make it. Sorry.
You're fine. Charlie isn't here either.
Okay.
He's got internet issues that he's trying to figure out, so I am recording this. It's going to be hard for me to figure out how to make this good video because I can't really capture my own video and have it show up for Charlie, but I'm going to do the best that I can. we actually just got started, Justin and I did. I know that you worked on the homework, you sent it to me, and we were basically just discussing what a signal is. So if you want to give your explanation for signals, I just gave an example, but I'd like to hear what you have.
For my definition or for an example?
For a definition of signals.
I'm gonna pull up my homework quick.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine.
Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Justin's on his phone, so he doesn't have video.
Yeah, right. He's just too cool.
Honestly, I can't download it.
Diva.
Yet.
Sorry, I'm finding this.
Charlie could have joined us on his phone. That cheap bastard.
Well, yeah, except that his internet plan would skyrocket.
So I said he's cheap.
Yeah. Plus, I don't think that it would have had
Right
a very
on.
good experience.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't find it right now, but I'll just...
I can pull up your email.
Sorry, I'm on my personal computer, and I sent it off of my work computer.
That's fine. Oh, let's see here. There we go. All right. Your definition is that a signal is an indication of something. It could indicate some sort of information about a certain process or machine. So, working off that definition, one of the things that I actually came up with through the Merriam-Webster dictionary was that a signal is defined as any phenomenon that occurs over time. So if you plot it, it's any signal that's occurring with time as the base axis. So there are some caveats to that rule. One of them being frequency, so hertz is a common thing to graph based on the bottom of time. But they pretty much always relate back to time in some way. So hertz being cycles per second. So working off the knowledge that a signal is something that occurs over time, now we can go a little bit more into what examples of signals are. Pretty common one, sound. It's fluctuations in decibels, volume levels. There's a lot of actually different signals that you can graph relating to sound over time. So can each of you give me maybe one or two examples?
Of what?
Justin, can you give me two examples of a signal that you might see?
I'm thinking like something from maybe a thermocouple or something. And then, like you said, sound.
Okay. So, thermocouple being...
A sensor having an output signal.
Yep. You can get a signal off of that. We'll talk a little bit more deeply on that, but the thermocouple is something that you can get a signal out of, but the signal itself actually has to be a different signal. So you put in electricity,
Yeah.
the thermocouple alters it. So the thermal sensor actually alters that system,
Yep.
or alters the signal through that system, and you get out a different signal. So it's a good example. Kate?
I actually started a project like a week before we started this class, and it's like a perfect example, so I'm pumped about it. For the ball mill in our finish mill, we use a vibration sensor to
Okay.
determine how much uh, material and grinding material we have in the ball mill. And so we just switched over from a sound sensor to a vibration sensor, and it's like 100 times better. So that's, I guess, what I keep thinking of an example.
So is it sensing the vibrations that are happening to try and calculate how much material is going through?
Yeah, so we can determine, how full we want the ball mill to be while it's running, and also how many grinding aid balls we want in the mill while it's running.
All right. So based off those examples, you're basically trying to plot some sort of information over time just to get a good idea of what you're working with and how you want to affect it. So just in your example of the thermocouple, measuring temperature is something that is really often used in industry. Anytime that there's a curing process that has to happen with increased temperature, you want to know what that temperature is, and you want to be able to alter your system to raise or lower that temperature. And Kate, it goes perfectly well with your ball mill example too. You explained it very well. You're trying to sense what's happening and interpret that data to know how to affect your system. So going off of that, there are really two main types of signal that we work with, and they're analog and digital. Those are the common terms. The ones that are pretty commonly used in signals and systems are continuous and discrete.
Okay.
Based off of those names, can you try and give a guess as to what the difference between them are?
Continuous is probably a continuous signal, and discrete happens not constantly, but over a period of time,
Okay.
sporadically maybe.
Kate?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The one is instantaneous, and the other is based on the sample at every certain amount of time, which is basically what Justin.
Yep. So I'm making a quick graph here for a couple, actually. Not sure how well you're going to be able to see this, but the top one is a continuous signal and the bottom one is a discrete signal. Both of you hit it perfectly on the head. The top one is a continuous amount of information. At any given point, no matter when it happens over time, you can pull a piece of data from that signal. Discrete or digital signals sample information. So one example being digital TV. Unlike the old analog signals, digital TVs actually take samples of the signal that's coming in at a certain rate. So each one of these tick marks is a certain point in time. So let's think frame rate. Let's think 30 frames per second. So if this entire line is however many points of information. For every 30 points of information, 1 second has passed. So this point is 1/30th of a second, this point is 1/30th, so on. And that's how, or that's the difference between the two. And I suppose the question that brings up is, why do we have discrete signals?
I was wondering that.
So, because analog signals are continuous, there is a lot of information that needs to be transferred. And with computers, we can't take and alter that signal at all because computers are binary. They can't handle full analog signals. They need to take them in and convert them to digital. They need to be succinct points of information. So that's really the main part of digital and discrete, or continuous and discrete. There are some inherent problems with that. So if we look at this again, because each of these points is one point and not the entire signal, what if I start losing these points?
Yeah.
By losing these points, it becomes harder and harder to tell what the actual signal is. And that's part of what sampling rate is. You might have heard that for audio, for instance. One common audio sampling rate is 44,100 samples per second. And they use that because at that point, you get a very accurate representation of a song or a sound wave. So it's pretty much what you hear is what's happening. And that actually brings me back to the problems that I gave you. Those two pictures are electron microscope representations, and they connect perfectly to what I was just talking about. Can you take a guess at to what they are now?
No idea. Looks like the Grand Canyon to me.
All right. Would you say that that's a continuous signal? If you were to travel along that canyon,
Yes.
it's a signal. The bottom one is also a signal, but instead of being continuous, it's discrete.
Yep.
There's longs and shorts. It relates to music because these are electron microscope pictures of the top one being a vinyl record and the bottom one being a CD.
Okay.
That's actually a sound signal embedded into physical media.
Yeah, I was totally stumped. I was like,
That's
why even
kind of cool.
this information?
So you can, while we think of discrete signals as very much electronic, and there's a reason for that, it's because of computers and how we process that information.
Yep.
You can still have discrete signals physically. And that's just one point that I really wanted to hit home. So it's kind of cool. It's something that we kind of take for granted. A vinyl record plays a song. It's physical. I don't know how it does it. Now you know how it does it.
That's cool.
So we pretty much covered the different types of signals that we really see in everyday life. Covered a little bit of the loss of information. So it really, what this class is going to come down to is we want to know what signals are. We now know kind of the different signals that we can possibly see and kind of what to expect when we see them. We know why it's good to have a continuous signal. We have an infinite amount of data that we can pull from. For discrete, we have to have it for processing it in computers. But with that discreteness, we're losing data.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really the main points that I wanted to hit home on with this. So, let me just look at my notes here quick. We're also going to be talking, well, we're not going to be doing any math. The point of having signals and systems is representing real-world phenomenon in a 2D space that we can analyze. We can graph signals. That's the point of signals and systems. With that, there are ways that we can manipulate those mathematically and correlate those to physical phenomenon. And that's a little bit more what I'm going to cover next week, just to know what to expect.
Yeah.
So there's also, along with the main signals, the analog and the discrete, there's different variants on those. So the ones that I showed you being a sine wave, there's different waveforms similar to what we've seen in electronics class. There's square waves, there's sawtooth waves. They're all signals that we can work with. Some important ones being, again, the discrete ones. Each one of those points is a single signal, and I forget the name of it. It is... Oh, it's a delta function. And delta functions are actually very, very important. I'll get into it more, but it's important because we can take a delta signal and we can predict what's going to happen when we put in a different signal. That's just looking into the future couple weeks, but the delta function is one of the most powerful signals that we have, and it's just a line. That's it. It's kind of crazy. There's also pulses. Going back to circuits 1, a pulse is just kind of a continuous voltage, at least how we think of it in electronics terms. So losing my headphones. So that right there is a single pulse. And having multiple pulses is what we use to create square waves. Just kind of tying back into what we've already learned. I mentioned earlier that we can take these different signals and combine them to create pretty much any signal that we want. So we can take sine waves and pulses, combine them, and we can actually produce that mathematically, and that's how we predict or put in signals. That's what the computers do when they pull in signals, they can sample it, and similar to graphing a line of best fit for like an Excel, we can actually take that signal and the computer can produce a formula that approximates what we actually see. That's kind of how we work with video. So that's a good thing to work with. We're Skyping right now. We have video. It's a very analog signal. So the computer has to take in that analog signal, convert it to digital. It's easy to basically approximate what that is. That's how compression kind of works, is that it approximates when a signal is coming in what should happen, and that's how we kind of lower down the amount of data that we need to pull, and that's how we can get video over a pretty small amount of data bandwidth. So I don't know about the two of you, but my download is only 7 megabits per second, but I'm getting pretty good video. That's because of how the computer is interpreting it, compressing it mathematically, and that's really where signals and systems shows its real muscle, is being able to take all of this information and compress it down and be able to produce the same thing on another end. Any questions so far?
Nope.
I don't know how well I'm teaching this, but
You're doing an awesome job. What are you smirking and snickering about, Kate?
What do you mean?
Somebody's making noise. I can't see anyone, so I don't know what's going on.
The
Oh,
hell
is that you, James?
what?
Is that you doing the... Never mind. I don't know what's going on.
It's probably my crappy microphone.
I think he's just hearing things.
Probably.
Yeah, without getting too much further into what I want to cover next week, we covered the material that I really wanted to cover more quickly than I was expecting.
Good.
Uh,
I think that we should talk about the wiki.
that's a good point to start at.
Oh, Kate.
Um,
Well, my concern is that, we just let loose and then it's like a free-for-all, and then I look at it one day and it's all populated with stuff and I have no idea who wrote what and what the plan is,
okay.
So I feel like, there's 5 or 6 main concepts you put into our syllabus.
Yep, there are 5 main concepts, and we've got 6 weeks to populate the wiki.
I feel like maybe this is a bad idea, but just throwing it out there. One way would be that we assign certain concepts to each of us so that, that person is responsible for a certain section so that there's no confusion about who wrote what or how much work one person did versus another.
Yep.
I think that's good. I think we'll all be doing the research, but just one person on each topic will do
Right, and
the
then
wiki, like you said.
yeah, and then we can work on our own time, because if Justin and Charlie fill it out at 5 p.m. and fill everything out, and then I go look at 8 p.m. and I have nothing to do, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and that's kind of the path that I was considering too. I know that everyone's got pretty drastically different schedules, so whether that's time that you're working on other classes or time that you're spending at work, finding a time to collaborate is going to be hard. That's why finding times to collaborate for this class was hard, and why I'm trying to do the best that I can if someone can't make it, to allow them to be as much a part of the class as possible. Kate, I don't know if I told you, but I'm actually recording this class for Charlie. So that's one thing that I'm going to try and do.
We can't talk shit about him?
You can talk as much crap about Charlie as you want, and I'm sure you can take it.
I love you, Charlie.
So,
So what if, here's just another idea, because there's 5 topics, and I don't know, that might get hard to split between 3 people. And if you want us each involved with one concept, what if we had like 3 sections, 3 short, 1 paragraph or 1 example or whatever sections within each concept, and each week, one of us takes 1 section and we complete. Together, we each contribute 1/3. So, like, one person could write the general overview of the concept. One person could provide an example. And then I can't think of a third one, but you know what I mean?
yep.
One
And then
person
we
with videos or something.
You're not doing, like, the example every week, but you're getting an experience with each different section. I don't know, something like that.
Yep. I suppose I don't necessarily have the full say in that. One way that we could do it, Kate, that you mentioned, being able to just split it evenly. One person is in charge of a topic, period. The 6th week, that can just be someone going through and cleaning up, adding kind of a cohesiveness to the wiki page, organizing it. That's the one section or the one at the end that I would add to make it even. Whether or not you want to go with that or go with the every week one person has a certain section, like you said, the overview, some content, examples. That's something that I'm going to leave up to you.
Justin, which one
I'm open to both. They both seem like equal work and seem like they'd work well.
I think the weekly split between 3 of us thing would work the easiest, because
James,
Yep.
would you be willing to like split each one up into maybe 3 different things, or do you want to go with the example and then
it's like
general?
the 3 sections.
Yep. I can do that. We can see how it works this first week.
Okay.
As far as kind of guiding you towards resources, while I have said that the videos that I've been able to find on Signal Systems mostly are pretty terrible, there are a few that are alright, from a couple different instructors, and I can share those sources with you. There are information sites. MIT has a pretty vast amount of knowledge out there for their open courseware. Whether you want to get that deep into it, searching for fundamentals in a pretty complex course is something that you can look towards. There's a lot of good information there, but trying to fish out that information can be hard. I'm not sure necessarily how much information is required on the wiki pages. I still need to go back and look at the ones that Andy has created, see kind of what level expectations should be. Whether that be, find 2 videos and 3 resources or whatever. I'll look into that over the next day or so while you guys are looking for information on your own. I'll share the videos that I've found. Those can go on. It really doesn't matter. So if that's the path that you want to take, I'll support that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I'm just gonna assume that Charlie's okay with that plan.
No, Charlie, you are okay with it.
So
I don't really see what else we would do. So seems
yeah.
the easiest to me. So if you could help us out, just like Justin said, providing 3 subcategories or 3 subsections for each topic,
Yep.
and just a general idea, then we'll take it from there.
All right. Yeah, I can do that. I can have 3 sections, and I can try and guide you towards resources for each of those.
That'd be fantastic. And we could have it our first section due like this Wednesday.
Yep. Yep, that's the intent. I'll be sending out kind of resources and areas to research for wiki population, along with questions similar to what I had, not deep questions, just to kind of get you thinking about what's going to be happening next week.
And sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
You're going to be letting us know when we have access to edit the wiki?
You do have access to edit the wiki now. If you go onto the wiki page now, up in the top right corner, there should be some icons like a pencil and a cog and things like that. The pencil allows you to write and add to the wiki. So
Cool.
you should have access, and whatever you want to write, you can write. So and I will be posting, like I said before, I'll be posting the syllabus onto the wiki too. That's going to be open to edit. One of the main points that I kind of asked Justin about was how we want to structure grading, because right now basically your grade's going to come from populating the wiki, doing the oral exam, and doing a DLA and your metacog memo. That's it. So whether we want to have being prepared with the homework, the pre-class homework being a percentage.
I think that there should be a percentage that's like class participation, and that would include being prepared with our homework each week, emailing you back within 1 business day, having generally a good attitude about the class and being present.
Okay.
That's what I would add.
I agree.
Obviously, the DLA, the metacog memo, all the stuff that I've got on there are going to be required. You want to add participation to the class, I'm 100% okay with that. Are there any other things that you want to add? Maybe, I don't even know.
So you said right now what? It's only populating the wiki and
So right now, as of what's on the syllabus, your grade comes from populating the wiki, taking your oral exam, doing the DLA, and doing your metacog memo. So by adding participation, you're taking into account the homework, completing the wiki on time per week, completing your specific section on time, being active in class. If you're not going to be in class, letting me know, just in general, being in contact with me and answering emails as I write them and you have time to respond. So
I think with that, pretty much sums it up. If we think of something else later on, but
You can
I think
always add it.
this class is set up, that's all it's really going to be for grading.
Yep. Justin, any more comments?
Nope.
All right. I think that's everything that I had. So we covered everything I wanted to cover a lot more quickly than I was expecting, but that's okay. We're going over conceptual parts, and it doesn't take that long. So there's a lot of information that goes a lot more deeply into it, and that's kind of where the rest of your time can be spent, looking for those resources, kind of getting a deeper knowledge in specific areas. By no means am I expecting you to remember this even a year from now, unless you're really working with signals. You're not going to need to know the math behind it. So I don't want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on how can this affect me as an employee or as an engineer or as a member of society. So I'll be sending out homework here for next week, along with the resources that I've been able to find. From there, I will also work on trying to narrow down each section into 3 subsections. I suppose for this first one, I'll just assign you one for each, and we'll just go through. Sound good?
Sounds great.
So I will work on those. I'll get you the homework still tonight. It might take me a little bit longer to figure out how to structure each of the sections of the wiki, but I'll try and get that done here tonight still, or
Don't rush
tomorrow.
yourself. I don't think any of us are going to try and work on it tonight anyway.
Well, I just want to
I
start
am.
populating it. So I'll definitely get you some of the resources that I found tonight so that you have them. So beyond that, I think that's everything.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
I hope I didn't bore you.
Not at all.
No, I'm sorry I was late.
Yeah, that's all right.
10 points off.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that
You only have video.
participation rule wasn't in effect yet. So,
Alright.
all right,
Thanks, James.
Bye.
bye.
Bye, guys.